Let's talk about everything that's happening there. California is about to become the fastest transfer of wealth in American history, just like Maui, where, of course, paychecks were handed out to people, property owners, for their homes, for people who lived there for generations. Walk away from your homes for good. Constitutional lawyer Lionel Nation just posted this a short time ago, and this is what's about to happen, folks. He says, out of nowhere, you will now see throngs and hordes of anonymous investors handing out checks in return for quitclaim deeds. This will be the fastest and most accelerated transfer of wealth you have ever seen. Now, this reminds me, and I was thinking about this after Jack Prosopiak posted this, and I was like, wait a second, he's absolutely right. If you've never seen the movie Chinatown, fantastic movie, Jack Nicholson, 1974. Literally, he says, this is the entire plot of Chinatown. It's about the California water wars and how corrupt bureaucrats, predatory elites intentionally dumped water into the ocean to create an artificial drought to devalue land so they could buy it all up. It's exactly what's happening here. Truth is stranger than fiction, though.
Always.
Sometimes. I mean, just look at some of these images, though, just to get a sense of 100-mile-an-hour winds, which have now died down significantly in most areas. Take a look at this. I mean, this is what firefighters are dealing with. It's you can't stop this.
No, that's an apocalyptic hell.
So as soon as you get this one blaze under control, all of those sparks have just gone about 20, 30 feet down the road and into another building, into another structure on fire. Take a look at this drone footage now coming in over the Pacific Palisades. It's gone. And if you want to understand the size and scope of this, think of the Manhattan, okay, the size of Manhattan. And then add another 3,000 acres on top of the size of Manhattan, totally wiped out. All of New York City entirely destroyed. And then add on top of that another 3,000 acres. And that's what you're dealing with here, with the amount of homes and businesses, schools, churches, everything destroyed in these areas. Let's just go through some of the numbers, shall we? So these are some of the latest numbers just into us here. Thousands of homes, of course. The Palisades fire specifically burned 17,000 acres. Numerous homes, businesses, landmarks in the Pacific Palisades, westward along the Pacific Coast Highway. It's kind of amazing to look at the Pacific Coast Highway as kind of like a fire break. On the one side, devastation. It just hops right over the highway down in some of those multi-million-dollar homes. And then you have the ocean right there.
Yeah.
In the Pacific Ocean. And
literally the only thing that could stop it.
Yeah, the only thing is the Pacific Ocean. A lot of people wondering, like, why can't we use the water from that? Well, the desalinization process, of course, has been shut down in California. So they haven't built the additional desalinization process. But go ahead, Philip.
But it wouldn't matter. If you start dumping salt water all over everything, you're going to kill the vegetation for like a long time. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Decades, and it'll destroy all of their equipment. So you can't just like stick hoses into the ocean, and start shooting it through their equipment. It'll destroy their equipment as well. So it's not the answer. Of course, building additional reservoir structures and additional water towers has been the answer. We'll get to that in a minute. But let me just go through the rest of these numbers here. So the Eaton fire, this is 0% contained, 10,600 acres. Altadena, we saw, in Altadena and Pasadena now dealing with almost total devastation in those areas as well. The Sunset Fire, which of course came over the canyon and down the hillside, 42 acres, triggered mandatory evacuations in Hollywood and Hollywood Hills area. And the Hearst Fire, 855 acres has been burned and destroyed. Take a look at Elaine from Seinfeld, Julie Louis-Dreyfus. Here's her house.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
And this is just a common refrain among celebrities. James Woods, other, very popular actors, Billy Crystal, homes destroyed.
Anthony Hopkins. Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Not Anthony Perkins. He's dead.
No, yes. He's dead, and he did not die in this fire. The disaster has reportedly displaced tens of thousands of people, 28,000 acres, left more than 340,000 residents right now without power, killed 5 civilians that we know of, although LA County Sheriff saying we don't know the total number of people dead. You actually the Weather Channel was just showing off footage of a house. We're not going to show it to you. They were just showing off footage of a house. And they were just panning across the ashes, of this house, thinking, oh, it's just a house. And right in the front of the footage is a skeleton. just right there in their footage. Like, who knows how many people were caught in this and decided to stay and didn't heed evacuation warnings, or maybe didn't receive evacuation warnings. Text messages sent to their cell phones. Who knows? Now, 600 National Guard members, 7,500 first responders are on the scene. 1,100 fire engines, many of them coming up against empty fire hydrants that they can't tap any water at all. And of course, take a look at this fire break. This is the Pacific Coast Highway here. This is not far. I mean, from where you and I both lived. I lived in Redondo Beach, and it's at one point way back.
I lived in Santa Monica, which is right near the Palisades, right on the border of that town. So
that's PCH right there, Pacific Coast Highway, and you can see it just came right down the hill, scorched everything in its path. Total destruction. And then the only other thing on the other side there is the Pacific Ocean and these multi-million-dollar homes in certain sections. So, oh my God, just look at this driving there. So the mayor, Karen Bass, got back from Ghana, where she sent a press release while she was in Ghana, basically vacationing, enjoying her downtime there while her city burned. So she arrived at the airport. An intrepid reporter managed to get a hold of her and throw a series of questions at her. And she stands there next to her like press person or whatever in this hallway waiting to be let out. It kind of reminds me of like Alfred Bourla from Pfizer when he was like confronted at, was it Davos or one of those World Economic Forum?
Yes.
And the reporter just kept asking him questions. I think it was from Rebel News, just kept asking him questions. And they walked for like 10 minutes. It was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So here she is stuck in like an airport exit she can't get out of. And he's asking her these questions and she says nothing. Watch.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Appreciate it. Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position?
Will you resign?
Is she even there? You know what this reminds me of? No. When I was pregnant, I took a class in hypnobirthing where they try and teach you, because you're in such trauma, to like float above yourself like you're not there because it's so stinking hard. That I think she's practicing hypnobirthing.
She's in hypnobirthing.
She's not there. Like her soul has floated out of her body.
She was doing Lamaze breathing. She's like, oh my God, get me out of this.
This is real trauma. I'm not here.
I'm not here. I can't answer any questions at all at my designated time when I'm in front of a podium and someone has written out something for me. That's when I will read it. Firefighters, of course, the main question here is, why is there no water? Why has water run out? Why were these policies in place that didn't allow us to build additional water towers? Yes, we get the whole gravity thing. Gravity going up a hill into these higher elevations, difficult because if so many of these taps are turned on and being used simultaneously to put out these fires, there's not enough of it. Well, the problem is you cut money. So the money could have been there. People wanted it. We had these things in place to build these additional reservoirs and additional water towers, so your policies failed. Here was MSNBC, liberal MSNBC, admitting they had little to no water at all when these fire trucks pulled up at these fire hydrants. Watch.
We saw an apartment building engulfed in flames. I saw the fire engine pull up this afternoon, a fire captain have one of his firefighters attach a hose to a hydrant, and that hose didn't fill up, Alex. And I asked the captain, out of every 10 hydrants you attach to today, on average, how many are you getting full water from? He says little to none. And it was at that point that really the whole crew stopped, looked up at this apartment building, and they realized there was nothing they could do except
watch it burn. Yep, no water. Sorry, we can't do our jobs. And then, of course, the liberal media in California is basically trying to cover up for this disaster and trying to protect these Democrat politicians, just like the good liberal media lapdogs that they are. So let me just set the context for you here. You have Caruso, of course, who's a multi-billion-dollar Democrat land developer, real estate developer in California, ran against Karen Bass for the mayor of Los Angeles, lost to her, was on Fox News talking about how these firefighters have no water, and then they come back on air and this news anchor corrects Caruso, saying we have not heard at all about any here at the Fox local affiliate here. We've not heard any instances where firefighters don't have water. And then watch as they go to the field and they toss to one of their reporters for on-the-ground reporting and just completely undercuts everything that he just said. Watch this. It's unbelievable.
Former LA mayoral candidate and real estate developer Rick Caruso criticizing the city's response to the windstorm and fires. He says officials should have been more prepared.
The real issue to me is twofold. We've had decades to go remove the brush in these hills that spreads so quickly. And the second is you got to have water. And my understanding is the reservoir was not refilled in time and in a timely manner to keep the hydrants going. So that's a failure, whether on DWP's part or another city agency. But this is basic stuff. This isn't high science here. And it's all about leadership and management that we're seeing a failure of. And all of these residents are paying the ultimate price for that.
Despite what you have heard from Caruso, no firefighters have told us that they are running out of water.
And let's go out to Gigi Graciette. She is live in Pacific Palisades. I know your signal's not the best, but Gigi, what can you tell us?
Well, firefighters have told me they have no water on this block, and you may be able to make out the ember storm that we're in the middle of right now. This house is going to be a total loss. They have no water to put on this fire.
No water.
They are standing by because they're trying to save the home that is next to it.
We want to be clear. We have heard that no one has told us.
This.
No one has told us that we have no water. Gigi, what do you? They've told me that we have no water.
Well, I'm not hearing that.
I can't hear you.
I don't hear that, and I don't want to hear that. So I will continue to say that I'm not hearing that.
I'm having some interference.
Break it up. I can't hear.
That's ridiculous.
Your signal is bad. Back to you, effers.
By the way, just a little note of privilege here. This is my father's business, is green waste recycling. Towns remove dead shrubbery and brush and forestry and send it to his recycling business. In California, where he recycles it in what's called a tub grinder and sells it as compost. Mulch. And so cities do pay for this. This was a booming business when he bought into it in the early 90s. But he has seen more municipalities pull back on this because of liberal policies and because a lot of environmentalist opposition who don't understand it. So this is something that I absolutely understand. Cities do this. They are supposed to be doing this. You can go to, I'm just going to tell you, visionrecycling.com is my father's green waste recycling business. It's a thing. I just want to tell you that this is something that municipalities know they have to do. I'll just stop it.
Yeah, cleaning up the brush. So
we've seen it in action.
And so all of the finger pointing, of course, from Democrats right now is about how, Donald Trump is the bad guy here. And Gavin Newsom last night basically saying, I'm going to point fingers at Donald Trump. He's trying to politicize this right now. We're out here fighting for people's lives and helping people's homes right now. Anderson Cooper interviewed Gavin Newsom and asked him about the water issue. And he just basically threw up his hands. He's like, that's not my field. I have nothing to do with the water and the hydrants. Watch.
What is the situation with the water? Obviously, in Palisades, ran out last night in the hydrants. I was talking to the firefighter on this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires, whether it be pipe, electricity, or whether it just be the complete overwhelm of the system. I mean, those hydrants are typical for 2 or 3 fires, maybe 1 fire. You have something at this scale, but again, that's going to be determined by the local.
Yeah. Or the voters who voted for additional water resources, 10 years ago now? 2014?
For decades, Californians have been voted for better water management.
Right. And the water bond issue, they set aside billions for it, for this particular situation. And of course, so the Babylon Bee satirical website, of course, posted this. Gavin Newsom demands answers from who's ever in charge of California.
I liked their other one that said he plans to tax the fires. He's going to put taxes on them until he gets answers as well.
I mean, Donald Trump has been hammering this since 2019, even earlier than that in tweets. And here, just as an example, Donald Trump saying this: Governor of California Newsom has done a terrible job of forest management. What Natali was just talking about, cleaning out the brush. I told him from the first day we met that he must clean his forest floors, regardless of what his bosses or the environmentalists tell him to do. Gavin Newsom says, you don't believe in climate change? You are excused from this conversation. Okay, so it's climate change, really? There's no evidence of that whatsoever. It's very clear that this is because of additional brush near power lines in these forests that haven't been cleaned up.
And let's talk about the phrasing that's being used right now in the media is that this is the most destructive fire in Los Angeles history, or what the Los Angeles Times called this morning in recent memory. When they say that, they can take the dollar amount of the property that was there. So this is what Bjorn Lundberg calls widening the target, I believe, is because this same magnitude of fire happens cyclically in California, and it's worse when there are drought years. But because there are now so many people living there, so much industrial building, that's why we can put such a high value on the damage. So you can't necessarily blame that on any climate change. This is new conditions that humans have created, and it's not that we are to blame, but this is the consequence. The same reason, the same way that we can put these high dollar numbers on big hurricanes, there's more there.
Well, there's more.
It's called widening the bullseye.
There's more people living there. There's more homes in that region, which
at
is
a
why
higher value, right?
Which is why they voted for these additional water resources, which we've been talking about here on the show for years now. Additional water resources to make sure that they are protected. Additional water towers so you don't run out for these hydrants, where only 3 houses can be dealt with in a fire situation, where you can have multiple backups that would have alleviated this problem. The New York Times yesterday published this. I thought this was hilarious. Here's their headline: in California, controlled fires can save homes. Why aren't more happening? Oh, the New York Times is admitting that these intentional burns would reduce the risk of wildfires and should be done. Well, wait a minute. Environmentalists have said, wait a second, you can't do controlled burns because all of that additional CO2 into the atmosphere is going to screw. Well, now you really effed yourselves, because now you've admitted that that's possible. In fact, I spoke to someone yesterday who is an expert in fire management. He's a consultant to companies or to cities to go and test their soil, test their fire hazard, and give them advice on how to remove it. And he said they tried to do controlled burns in Paradise, California. The residents had such a fit that they shut it down. So there's this lack of understanding from environmentalists who just say, oh no, carbon's bad. They don't actually study. Liberals don't study. No, they don't, and they hope you will. They hope they go with emotion instead of facts. By the way, just I was pointing out the New York Times piece there for a second. I just want to show you this. So if you go to the New York Times website, and they push you to try to subscribe,
which we refuse.
I refuse to subscribe. But listen, look what they put at the top of their thing here for the New York Times: support independent journalism.
That is rich.
Independent journalism? I about fell out of my freaking chair when I saw this today. I couldn't believe.
Did they independently sell us the Iraq War? Which independent person did that? Did they independently decide to go with Crossfire Hurricane and not independently verify it? That's so great.
They are mouthpieces of the intelligence state. They are paid for by the intelligence state. Go ahead, Philip.
I'm just like, who the hell do they think the mainstream media is then? If they're like, well, who does that leave?
The Washington Post? Democracy dies in darkness. Yeah. Support independent journalism at the New York Times. Okay. Here's an independent journalist just like us. Here's Michael Schellenberger. So Michael Schellenberger says, get ready, everyone, because you're going to start to hear the cover up around all of these failed liberal policies. The liberal media is going to blame it on climate change. They're going to push all of these narratives a certain way. Listen to how he says, get ready for what's coming.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Schellenberger for Public. Over the next few weeks, you're going to hear Governor Gavin Newsom, Mayor Karen Bass, and the Democratic Party tell you that there's nothing that could have been done to prevent the catastrophic fires from ravaging Los Angeles. Those will be lies. They could have prevented them. Governor Gavin Newsom cut the funding for preventing forest fires and failed to build sufficient water resources for fighting fires. Mayor Karen Bass cut $17.5 million in funding for the Los Angeles Fire Department and then went to Ghana, even though she knew of the risk of catastrophic fires. Now, it's true that California in general, and Los Angeles in particular, are fiery places, and it's true that Santa Ana winds made the fires worse. But Newsom and Bass have known about those hazards for all of their careers and failed to deal with them. The rank incompetence, the lack of leadership is shocking and scandalous. It's hard to overstate how badly they screwed up water management in particular.
So water management in particular, and this is where, of course, all of the focus should be right now. The things that voters voted for and using tax. Where's that money, by the way? Like all of that money that you've set aside for this and you've not spent it because liberals won't allow it to be spent, even though voters voted for it, specifically these water towers, right? So yes, gravity is a big issue here. This is the whole story about gravity, how water tower works. Height equals pressure, right? So how many of these can we build on hillsides? How many can we use? And if all of these taps are turned on simultaneously, then guess what? We don't have enough. But these should have been refilled. Water management would have allowed these to be refilled and additional ones built so you wouldn't have had this issue. New ones built, extra backup so this doesn't happen, and refilled. They get refilled at nighttime. So when they're being used up, then they'd be refilled. These should have all been filled. And they weren't. So firefighters showing up, finding out that there's no water. And then we'll end with this here. They had to use canvas handbags. These are not like ladies' handbags, but these are actual canvas handbags. Firefighters are having to take, instead of the fire hydrants, they're having to fill up these canvas handbags at their trucks, like, and then run over to like this. It's like something out of like 1800s. You know, like something you'd see like in Baltimore in 1825.
In the highest tax state in the union.
Yes.
We've gone back to
what they're
bucket
resorting
brigades.
to.
Yes, hand me a bucket, hand it down the line, and then we'll pour it on the fire. And, those didn't really work at all, of course, and everything would burn down. So that's what we're back to now, bucket brigades in California. Okay. The countdown is on before the new administration exposes the entire pandemic. Most know that a large sum of people's health was negatively impacted by global coercion, whether severe side effects or experiencing long COVID. Check out this natural solution formulated by our friend, Dr. Peter McCullough, one of the excellent doctors in this country. He was banned, censored, and all sorts of slander against him in collaboration with the wellness company. And they just leveled up on their original detox formula for $30 less. Introducing the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox, conveniently consolidated into one capsule with 4x more milligrams. And all of these things that I can't pronounce. Nattokinase, bromelain, turmeric root extract. I can pronounce that one. So it's all in there. Nattokinase is an enzyme researched for its anti-clotting effects, may work to break down spike proteins, combined with bromelain and curcumin. My gosh, so many things that I can't pronounce. It provides a potent blend for detoxification and cellular support, crafted with 100% natural ingredients. Ultimate Spike Detox is backed by research, offering effective support for your cells' natural repair and recovery. Experience the only formula that's approved and used by our friend Dr. Peter McCullough, a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all and was highly, highly censored. Head over to twc.health/redacted. Use the code redacted to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's it. Use the code redacted. Go to twc.health/redacted to get 10% off.
All right. Well, did Donald Trump just drop his true feelings about the Israeli regime of Benjamin Netanyahu? President Trump posted a video of Columbia professor Jeffrey Sachs as he was sharply criticizing Netanyahu for leading the United States into endless wars for the last several decades. Color me surprised. Sachs is, in my opinion, and I think we share it on this show, is one of the most informed anti-war voices on the Middle East and Ukraine as well. And it's rare to see leaders reference him. So I'd like you to watch the 2-minute bit that President Trump posted, and then we'll see what we can surmise what might be the foreign policy of the incoming Trump administration.
The war in Syria, and you may actually hear from grown-up reporters who are lying through their teeth or ignorant beyond imagining that, oh, the war in Syria, yes, Russia intervened in Syria. Well, do you know that that Obama tasked the CIA to overthrow the Syrian government starting 4 years before Russia intervened? What kind of nonsense is that? And how many times did the New York Times report on Operation Timber Sycamore, which was the presidential order to the CIA to overthrow Bashar al-Assad? 3 times in 10 years. This is not democracy. This is a game. And it's a game of narrative. Why did the U.S. invade Iraq in 2003? Well, first of all, it was completely phony pretenses. It wasn't, oh, we were so wrong, they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. They actually did focus groups in the fall of 2002 to find out what would sell that war to the American people. Abe Schultzke, if you want to know the name of the PR genius. They did focus groups on the war. They wanted the war all the time. They had to figure out how to sell the war to the American people, how to scare the shit out of the American people. It was a phony war. Where did that war come from? You know what? It's quite surprising. That war came from Netanyahu, actually. You know that? It's weird. And the way it is that Netanyahu had from 1995 onward the theory that the only way we're going to get rid of Hamas and Hezbollah is by toppling the governments that support them. That's Iraq, Syria, and Iran. And the guy's nothing if not obsessive. And he's still trying to get us to fight Iran this day, this week. He's a deep, dark son of a bitch, sorry to tell you, because he's gotten us into endless wars, and because of the power of all of this in the U.S. politics, he's gotten his way. But that war was totally phony. So what is this democracy versus dictatorship? Come on. These are not even sensible.
Wow.
That's amazing. And find the lie. Tell me the lie.
There's no lie. Everyone who watches our show understands that.
You know about the PR campaign to sell us the Iraq war. We've gone over that at length. You know that Israel is behind our attack on Iran's nuclear program. They, in fact, helped us launch that cyber weapon. You know this. You should already know this. What's amazing is to know that now Donald Trump knows this. Because, we're all guessing. Because he said many times he's a great friend to Israel. He said that Hamas better release those hostages or he'll release hell on them. He said certain things that are maybe incongruent with someone who wants the war to end and not to continue to support Israel. So now on his own feed, he's acknowledging that Netanyahu is a war criminal. Incidentally, the House just passed a bill to sanction anybody who will justify what the ICC is doing in trying to arrest Netanyahu. So a new law in Congress is protecting Netanyahu, but that may not be the appetite of the incoming president. So that is very interesting. Could it be that he has real anti-war advisors, the incoming president? Incidentally, Netanyahu has reportedly canceled his plans to attend the inauguration on January 20th because he recently had prostate surgery and was told not to travel.
Oh, okay.
That's what they say.
So he's not coming to Trump's inauguration now.
It's up his...
Interesting. Someone had his finger up his... Yeah, it's interesting because, one of the big criticisms right now of the incoming Trump administration and cabinet is that every one of them is pro-Zionist. Everyone is is like an Israel first choice right now. And so there's been a lot of criticism about that, not just on this show, but of many of our guests, of course. And former Trump administration officials, by the way, who've told me privately that you can't, it seems like, be America first and be a part of Trump's cabinet. You have to be Israel first to be a part of Trump's cabinet. Yeah. So this is a kind of a shocking thing from Trump to post this video. With
no context, though. Yeah. With no context. So it either means Jeffrey Sachs is about to be arrested or he feels this way, right? So hopefully it's closer to the latter.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Hey, there was a lot of palace intrigue today at Jimmy Carter's funeral. Of course, laying the former president to rest with a big church ceremony. Of course, Gerald Ford Jr.'s son, Gerald Ford Jr. speaking. Others, of course, eulogizing the former president, Jimmy Carter. And so this was interesting moments. You see Kamala Harris walking in here with Doug Emhoff, and they just got the total cold shoulder. I mean, Barack Obama almost didn't even acknowledge her. They didn't really acknowledge at all. Donald Trump didn't. Bush didn't. No one. It was like, we're not even going to acknowledge your presence there. And you can just see her sort of sitting there. I'm going to rifle through this. But notice notice Obama and Trump sort of having a nice, friendly conversation. He makes some jokes at one point. Even the New York Post brought in a lip reader about it, but you can see Barack Obama like laughing at certain points, and he's making jokes, and he smiles, and then Kamala Harris like looks back in kind of disgust, like, I can't believe you guys are being jovial and enjoying yourselves and talking right now. It's a remarkable sort of moment.
Yeah.
What was the
according to the New York Post, Obama says Trump told Obama they need to find a quiet place to discuss a matter of importance. And he says, meet me later in the foyer, which is the foyer of a certain place. Some are saying, Trump leaned over to Obama and said, I've pulled out of that. It's the conditions. Can you believe it? So some kind of inside deal. Some are saying they're actually talking about something in public, in code.
Yeah, watch this.
I don't know what that would be. Yeah, let's watch.
This is the close-up of it, so take a look. You can see here.
President Obama there, elected in 2008, served 2 terms, and then yielded there to President Donald Trump.
Laughing, having a joke, having a good old time. Here was CNN even admits, actually, this is pretty remarkable because President Biden hates Kamala Harris, and this has been widely reported, of course. So here's President Biden, and CNN actually admits how frosty this relationship was. Watch this.
Started the year as the would-be Democratic presidential nominee, and we all know what happened after that. Again, you didn't see a particularly warm greeting between the first couple and the second couple, but again, we are at a funeral, so one has to take that into account when trying to read the body language of the individuals there.
Okay.
So it's, she was cast aside. It's just interesting to see that back and forth and the sort of conversation with Trump and Obama there. Let us know your thoughts on that. They do, in fact, hate each other. But her, looking back over at Obama, I can't believe you're talking to Trump right now, because he was the orchestrator of it all. And it's interesting to see those guys. This is the end of the Obama era. Make no mistake about it. So what you're watching, it's almost like a funeral for the end of the Obama-Biden era. Also, we're sort of laying to rest the Obama-Biden era as we lay Jimmy Carter to rest.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm torn about how they should behave in public, because I think that you should behave jovial towards people that you, and respectful towards everybody. Then again, Obama killed so many people that it's, so many people are like, Obama, you can't talk to Trump. He's literally Hitler. I feel a little bit about how would I behave around Barack Obama, knowing how many people in the Middle East whose death he caused.
Hey, Mr. President, nice to meet you. I know you've killed a lot of people, but I'm going to shake your hand and say hello. I'm moving along.
Yeah.
But you saw that Trump
is there a way to be
Pence's
respectful
hand.
towards everybody, even if you feel this way? That's just something that I don't know, how, that's why I'm not a politician, because I feel a little bit more like some of the memes around Melania is if your woman is acting unforgiving around people who wronged you, she's not the one, because Melania seems very loyal. She cannot fake it around these people.
Well, can we put up that video again then, Philip? Because you notice, can you guys tell me who's missing from this?
Michelle?
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, there's Michelle is missing from that event. And according to reports, now, Jack Posobiec posted this. I don't know,
Look at Melania's face, though, because it's awesome.
Hold on, let me finish.
Okay.
Jack Posobiec published a report a short time ago, and I haven't confirmed this independently. He says that they are on the outs. That it wasn't that she wasn't invited, is that why wouldn't Michelle Obama be invited to a Democrat presidential funeral? Of course she was. It's, according to him, that they are on the outs. They are on the outs, according to multiple people close to the president. Okay. So, I haven't independently confirmed that, but it's interesting that she's not at a presidential funeral. They don't come up very often. What's more important than a presidential funeral?
Yeah. Maybe she had the stomach.
Where do you have to be? Yeah, unless you're really, really sick or something, you can't pull it off.